My wife humiliated my son from my first marriage. Her daughter stole his toys and money, and when I told my wife about it, she said it wasn't her problem. When I married Ashley 12 years ago, I thought I was signing up for the kind of happiness I'd always dreamed of. I already had my son, Noah, from my first marriage. He was just a baby then, a sweet, curious little boy who barely understood what a divorce was. But I promised myself and him that I'd give him a good life, no matter what. Ashley had her own daughter, Sophia, who was a year older than Noah. When we first met, it felt like the perfect blend. A second chance at love for both of us and a ready-made family for our kids. I thought we'd grow into a unit, blending our lives seamlessly. I was wrong. Ashley wasn't the woman I thought she was, and over the years, I've watched her favoritism towards Sophia chip away at Noah's confidence and, frankly, his sense of belonging. I should have seen the red flags earlier. When we first moved in together, Ashley would gush endlessly about Sophia. Sophia got the top score in her spelling test today, she'd announce, showing me her test paper like it belonged in the Smithsonian. Meanwhile, Noah would quietly mention something he achieved, like the time he placed second in his school's science fair, and Ashley would barely look up from her phone to say, "That's nice, Noah." This wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. At first, I chalked it up to her just being a doting mom, maybe overly so, but as the years went by, the disparity became impossible to ignore. Sophia got new clothes, while Noah got hand-me-downs. Sophia got to choose the family vacation destination, while Noah's suggestions were always dismissed. Worst of all was the emotional imbalance. Sophia could do no wrong in Ashley's eyes. She was brilliant, funny, special. Meanwhile, Noah? He was an afterthought. Noah, bless his heart, never complained. He's a good kid, too good, if I'm honest. He always tried to win Ashley over, offering to help with chores or complimenting her cooking. But no matter how hard he tried, Ashley remained indifferent. It broke my heart to watch him try and fail to connect with her, but I didn't know how to fix it. As Sophia and Noah got older, the tension in the house became more pronounced. Sophia, perhaps taking a page from her mother's book, started treating Noah like he was beneath her. She'd tease him about his clothes or his hobbies. "Seriously, Noah? You're still into Legos? What are you, 5?" She'd scoff, while Ashley sat nearby, scrolling on her phone, pretending not to hear. I started noticing little things, too, like how Ashley always seemed to take Sophia's side, no matter the situation. One night, when Noah was about 10, he accidentally spilled a glass of juice on the living room carpet. Sophia immediately tattled, shouting, "Mom!" Noah spilled juice, before Noah could even apologize. Ashley stormed into the room, berating Noah for being careless and telling him to clean it up. But when Sophia knocked over an entire plate of spaghetti a few weeks later, Ashley just laughed and said, "It's okay, honey. Accidents happen." I tried to step in when I could, but it was a delicate balance. I didn't want to create a bigger divide by making it seem like I was playing favorites with Noah. But deep down, I was seething. This wasn't the family life I'd envisioned. And yet, every time I brought it up to Ashley, she'd brush me off. "You're overreacting," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "Sophia's just a little more outgoing than Noah. That's not a bad thing." The final straw came last year. Noah had spent months saving up his allowance to buy a video game he'd been talking about nonstop. He was so proud of himself when he finally had enough money to order it online. When the package arrived, he was over the moon. But when I came home from work that evening, I found him sitting on the couch, staring at the empty game case with tears in his eyes. "What happened?" I asked, alarmed. "Sophia took it," he muttered, barely audible. "She said I don't deserve it." I felt a surge of anger that I hadn't felt in years. I stormed upstairs to find Sophia lounging in her room, the game disc already in her console. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, holding up the empty case. She barely looked up from the screen. "Relax, Dad. Noah can play it later. I'm just borrowing it. Give it back. Now." She rolled her eyes, muttering something about how Noah was being a baby. When I told Ashley about it, expecting her to back me up, she shrugged and said, "It's just a game, John. Let it go." It wasn't just a game. It was the principle. It was about the years of favoritism, the years of dismissing Noah, the years of allowing Sophia to treat him like a second-class citizen. And it was about my failure as a father to protect my son from it. That night, I sat Ashley down for what I hoped would be a constructive conversation. Ashley, I began, this has to stop. The way you treat Noah, it's not okay. He's your stepson, but he's still a kid. He deserves the same love and respect you give Sophia. Her response floored me. John, don't make this a bigger deal than it is. I can't help it if I feel closer to my own daughter. That's natural. Natural? Ashley, you don't just feel closer to Sophia. You ignore Noah entirely. You let her bully him. Do you even realize how much that's hurt him? How much it's hurt me to watch? She crossed her arms, her face hardening. Maybe if Noah were more like Sophia, it wouldn't be so hard. That sentence hit me like a freight train. More like Sophia? What did that even mean? That he wasn't good enough as he was? That he had to change to earn her approval? I spent the next few days wrestling with my emotions. Could I really stay in a marriage where my son was treated like an outsider? Where his worth was constantly diminished? The answer, ultimately, was no. I owed it to Noah to put him first. For years, I tried to hold this family together, but it was clear now that the family I envisioned didn't exist. Ashley wasn't willing to change, and staying with her would only continue to hurt Noah. When I told Noah about my decision, his eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of relief. Dad, he said, his voice trembling, thank you. It wasn't easy, but I filed for divorce a week later. Sophia and Ashley were furious, of course, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was doing the right thing. Noah and I moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't much, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long time, Noah seemed happy, truly happy. Sophia's 13th birthday was supposed to be a family celebration. I'd gone out of my way to make sure it would be perfect, balloons, a cake from her favorite bakery, and even the new tablet she'd been begging for. I wanted to show her that, despite the growing tension in our home, I still cared about her. Noah had chipped in too, buying her a bracelet with his allowance. He didn't have to, but that's just the kind of kid he is, kind, selfless, always trying to bridge the divide. The day started smoothly enough, with laughter and presents, but things took a sharp turn when it was time for the family photo. I set up the camera in the living room and called everyone over. Noah sat down on the couch, eager to be part of the moment, but Ashley gave him a look that could freeze fire. Noah, can you step out for a minute? This is just for family, she said, her voice cold and dismissive. Noah's face fell. But I am family. Ashley didn't miss a beat. This is Sophia's day. Don't make it about you. I felt a sharp pang of anger, but tried to keep my composure. Ashley, he's part of this family too. He should be in the photo. Sophia rolled her eyes dramatically. Ugh, just take the picture without him. He's ruining it. Noah, visibly upset, got up without a word and walked out of the room. My heart broke as I watched him retreat to his room, closing the door quietly behind him. I wanted to chase after him, to tell him he mattered, but Ashley gave me a warning glance, and I knew a confrontation now would only ruin the rest of the day. I swallowed my frustration and forced a smile for the photo, but the damage was done. Later that evening, I went to check on Noah. I found him sitting on his bed, clutching a worn photo of his late mother. I don't know why they hate me so much, he said quietly, his voice trembling. They don't hate you, I said, though the words felt hollow even as I spoke them. They just don't always show their love the right way. He looked at me with a mix of sadness and disbelief. Dad, you don't have to lie to make me feel better. The weeks after Sophia's birthday were some of the hardest I've ever endured. The tension in our home was suffocating, and Noah bore the brunt of it. One day, I came home from work to find him frantically searching the living room. What's wrong? I asked. My sketchbook, he said. His voice panicked. It's gone. I left it on the coffee table this morning, and now it's gone. I helped him search, but it was nowhere to be found. Later that evening, I overheard Sophia giggling with her friend Madison in her room. Did you see how mad he got? Sophia said, barely containing her laughter. He's probably still looking for it. I pushed the door open without knocking, startling them both. Sophia quickly tried to hide something under her bed, but I was faster. I pulled out Noah's sketchbook, its pages torn and defaced with crude drawings and insults. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Sophia crossed her arms, feigning innocence. "It's just a joke. He takes everything so seriously." "A joke?" I shouted. "Do you have any idea how much this means to him?" Ashley appeared in the doorway, clearly annoyed. "What's going on?" "Sophia destroyed Noah's sketchbook," I said, holding it up as evidence. Ashley glanced at it and shrugged. "It's just a sketchbook, John. She probably didn't mean any harm." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Ashley, this isn't just about a sketchbook. It's about respect. Sophia has been bullying Noah for months, and you've done nothing to stop it." Ashley rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. Kids fight. It's normal." "It's not normal," I snapped. "And if you keep brushing it off, it's only going to get worse." The final straw came one evening when I walked into the kitchen and saw Ashley using a jacket to wipe up a spilled drink. At first, I didn't think much of it, until I realized it was Noah's late mother's favorite jacket. The one he kept as a memento, the one he'd carefully hung in his closet to keep it safe. I snatched it out of her hands, furious. "What the hell are you doing?" "It's just an old jacket," she said, annoyed. "Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" "This isn't just a jacket," I said through gritted teeth. "It belonged to Noah's mom. You know how much it means to him." "Well, maybe he should put it somewhere safe next time," she retorted, completely unfazed. I stormed upstairs to find Noah sitting at his desk, oblivious to what had just happened. I couldn't bring myself to tell him. Instead, I quietly hung the jacket back in his closet, praying he wouldn't notice the faint stain on the sleeve. It was around this time that I started noticing other things. Small, almost imperceptible moments that painted a bigger picture. Like the way Ashley would roll her eyes whenever Noah tried to share something he was proud of. Or the way Sophia would take his things without asking, knowing Ashley wouldn't hold her accountable. I began to suspect there were more incidents happening behind my back, things Noah wasn't telling me because he didn't want to cause trouble. One evening, I came home earlier than usual and overheard a conversation between Ashley and Sophia. "Why do we even have to put up with him?" Sophia whined. "Don't worry," Ashley said dismissively. "He'll be out of the house soon enough." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. They weren't just indifferent to Noah, they actively resented him. That's when I decided I needed proof. If I was going to confront Ashley, I needed evidence she couldn't dismiss as me overreacting. So, I bought a set of small, discreet cameras and installed them around the house. One in the living room, one in the kitchen, and one in the hallway outside the kids' bedrooms. I hated the idea of spying on my own family, but I didn't see another way. Over the next few days, the cameras confirmed my worst fears. I watched as Ashley and Sophia repeatedly humiliated Noah when they thought no one was watching. They took his belongings, mocked him behind his back, and even threw away a trophy he'd won at school, calling it pathetic. The final blow came when I saw Sophia sneak into Noah's room and deliberately break a model airplane he'd spent weeks building. When Noah confronted her, Ashley sided with Sophia, telling him he was too sensitive and needed to toughen up. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I downloaded the footage and prepared myself for a confrontation. I knew it wouldn't be pretty, but I couldn't let this continue. Noah deserved better. He deserved a family that loved and respected him, not this toxic environment where he was constantly belittled and ignored. It took me 3 days to go through all the footage from the hidden cameras. I'd installed them with the faint hope that I was wrong, that the resentment I'd seen was exaggerated in my mind. But the truth was worse than I ever imagined. Each clip confirmed the pattern of hostility and indifference that had become the norm in our home. Ashley and Sophia's treatment of Noah wasn't just casual neglect. It was intentional, calculated, and cruel. In one clip, I watched as Noah came into the kitchen after school, excited to show Ashley his test results. He'd scored a 94 on a math test he'd been worried about. "Look, Mom," he said, holding out the paper. Ashley barely glanced at it before saying, "That's nice, Noah," and returning to her phone. Sophia walked in a moment later with a drawing she'd made. Ashley sprang from her seat, showering Sophia with praise and pinning the drawing to the fridge. "Noah, Still holding his test paper, quietly folded it and slipped it into his backpack. In another recording, I saw Noah asking to watch his favorite TV show in the living room. No, Sophia snapped. I'm watching something. Noah hesitated, then turned to Ashley, who was sitting nearby. Can I watch after she's done? He asked. Ashley didn't even look up. Stop being annoying, Noah. Go to your room. But the worst clip, the one that made my stomach turn, showed Sophia sneaking into Noah's room while he was at school. She rummaged through his desk, pulling out his journal. Sitting on his bed, she flipped through the pages, laughing and taking photos of the entries with her phone. Later that evening, the footage showed her and her friends reading the entries out loud, mocking Noah's heartfelt thoughts and dreams. When he caught them, his face flushed with humiliation. Ashley told him to stop being dramatic and sent him to his room for causing a scene. I stayed up all night, replaying the clips over and over again, each one a dagger to my heart. How had it come to this? How had I let it get this bad? The next morning, I downloaded the most damning footage onto a USB drive. I knew what I had to do. That evening, after dinner, I told Ashley we needed to talk. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone as usual. Sophia was upstairs, likely on a group call with her friends. What is it now? She asked, not bothering to look up. I took a deep breath. I've been watching, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and sadness. I've been watching how you and Sophia treat Noah, and I've had enough. She frowned, finally setting her phone down. What are you talking about? I pulled out the USB drive and handed it to her. I installed cameras around the house, I said. I've seen everything. The way you humiliate him, the way you exclude him, the way you let Sophia bully him while you stand by and do nothing. Her face hardened. You installed cameras? Without telling me? That's a violation of privacy, John. Privacy? I snapped. You're worried about privacy when you've spent years tearing down my son? I trusted you to be a mother to him, and instead, you've treated him like he's nothing. She crossed her arms, her voice cold. You're exaggerating. Kids fight. Siblings tease each other. It's normal. This isn't normal. I shouted, my composure slipping, ignoring him, stealing his things, mocking him. Those aren't the actions of a family. They're the actions of bullies. And you're enabling it. She stood up, glaring at me. You're blowing this out of proportion. Sophia is a teenager. She's going to have her moments. And maybe if Noah weren't so sensitive, we wouldn't have these problems. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sensitive? He's 12 years old. Ashley. He's a child. And instead of protecting him, you've allowed him to be tormented in his own home. She threw up her hands, exasperated. What do you want me to say, John? That I'm a terrible person? Fine. I'm a terrible person. But don't act like Noah's some saint. He's not perfect. This isn't about perfection, I said, my voice quieter now. It's about decency. It's about love. And it's about the fact that you and Sophia have none of it for him. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying our conversation, wondering if I could have said something, anything, that would have made her see reason. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't have mattered. Ashley wasn't going to change. She didn't see anything wrong with her behavior, and she wasn't willing to take responsibility. For her, Noah was an inconvenience, and I couldn't allow my son to grow up feeling that way. The next morning, I made my decision. I sat Noah down in the kitchen while Ashley and Sophia were still asleep. Noah, I said, we're leaving. He looked at me, confused. What do you mean? I mean we're going to start over. Just you and me. Somewhere else. His eyes filled with tears. You're serious? I nodded. I've already started looking for a new place. It won't be big, but it'll be ours. And I promise you, things will be different. He hugged me tightly, and I felt the weight of years of neglect and pain lift from his small shoulders. Thank you, Dad, he whispered. By the time Ashley came downstairs, I'd already packed a bag. She looked at me with confusion, then suspicion. What's going on? I'm leaving, I said simply, and I'm taking Noah with me. She laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. You're not serious. I am, I said. You've made it clear that you don't care about Noah, and I won't let him live in a home where he's treated like an outsider. This ends now. You can't just leave, she said, her voice rising. This is my house too. I met her gaze, unflinching. Then you and Sophia can stay. I'll find somewhere else. But this family, this dynamic, is toxic and I won't subject Noah to it any longer. Sophia appeared at the top of the stairs, her face a mask of feigned innocence. Are you really leaving because of him? She asked, her voice dripping with disdain. I turned to her, my anger bubbling to the surface. Yes, because of him. Because he deserves better than this. And because I've failed him by staying as long as I have. It took a few weeks to finalize everything. I found a modest apartment across town and filed for divorce. The process was messy. Ashley fought me at every turn, accusing me of abandoning her and Sophia, but I stood my ground. For the first time in years, I felt like I was making the right choice. Moving day was bittersweet. As Noah and I loaded the last box into the car, he looked back at the house one final time. Do you think they'll ever change? He asked. I didn't know how to answer. Maybe, I said finally. But even if they don't, that's not your burden to bear. He nodded, his expression thoughtful. I'm just glad we're leaving. So am I said, ruffling his hair. So am I. As we drove away, leaving the house and the pain of the past behind, I felt a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Noah deserved a fresh start, and so did I. And while the road ahead wouldn't be easy, I knew we'd face it together, as a family. After filing for divorce, I braced myself for what I knew would be a grueling process. Ashley wasn't the type to go quietly. When I handed her the papers, her reaction was explosive. She screamed, called me every name in the book, and threatened to ruin me. You think you can just walk away and leave me with nothing? She shouted. Think again, John. I'll make sure you regret this. I expected resistance, but what followed was a level of pettiness and vindictiveness I hadn't fully anticipated. Ashley hired an aggressive attorney, Carla Martinez, who quickly filed demands that left me stunned. Half of everything. Our home, our savings, even some of my retirement account. On top of that, they filed for alimony, claiming that Ashley had sacrificed her career to take care of our family. It was laughable, considering her full-time devotion to Sophia and complete disregard for Noah. To make matters worse, Sophia's behavior intensified. Every time Noah and I came to the house to collect something, she made snide comments or intentionally bumped into him as if marking her territory. One day, while I was packing boxes in the garage, she cornered Noah in the living room. I walked in just as she sneered, "Good luck being poor with your loser dad." Noah's face crumpled, and I saw red. "That's enough," I roared, my voice echoing through the house. "Sophia, go to your room." Ashley appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Don't yell at my daughter," she snapped. "This isn't your house anymore." I turned to her, my jaw clenched. "It's not yours either. Not for long." I knew the divorce would be ugly, but I had one weapon Ashley didn't know about: the recordings. I'd meticulously saved every clip from the hidden cameras, organizing them into folders that showcased the worst of their behavior. The footage was damning, capturing everything from Ashley's indifference to Sophia's outright bullying. One clip showed Ashley laughing as Sophia tore up Noah's homework. Another showed Ashley ignoring Noah's pleas for help while Sophia threw his things out of the window. The final clip, the one that solidified my resolve, showed Ashley using Noah's late mother's jacket as a rag while Noah's voice could be heard crying in the background. It was indisputable evidence of neglect and emotional abuse. My lawyer, Megan Price, was a sharp, no-nonsense woman with years of experience handling contentious divorces. When I showed her the footage, her eyes widened. "This is gold," she said, leaning back in her chair. "With this, we can prove not only that Ashley shouldn't get custody of Noah, but also that she doesn't deserve the house or the majority of your assets." "But will the court care?" I asked. "Ashley's demanding everything. What if they believe her lies?" Megan smirked. "Trust me, John. The court loves evidence. And this is as clear-cut as it gets." The day of the first court hearing was nerve-wracking. Ashley arrived dressed in designer clothes, flanked by Carla, who looked smug and ready for a fight. I was nervous but reassured by Megan's calm demeanor. She prepared me for this moment, coaching me on how to present my case and stay composed under pressure. Ashley's opening argument painted her as the victim. "I gave up my career to raise our children," she said, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. "I devoted myself to this family, and now John wants to leave me destitute. I need the house to provide stability for Sophia, and I deserve alimony for the years I spent supporting his career." Her attorney nodded solemnly, adding, "Ashley's contributions to this marriage are invaluable. Without her, John wouldn't have been able to focus on his work and build the life they have today." It was infuriating to sit there and listen to her twist the narrative, but Megan had warned me to stay quiet. When it was our turn, Megan stood confidently and presented the recordings. "Your Honor," she began, "the evidence will show that Ashley not only neglected her responsibilities as a stepmother but actively participated in the emotional abuse of Noah, her stepson. This isn't a case of two parents disagreeing. This is about protecting a child from a toxic environment." She played the clips one by one. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Ashley's voice mocking Noah and Sophia's laughter as she humiliated him. The judge, a stern-looking man in his 60s, leaned forward, his expression darkening with each clip. By the time Megan finished, Ashley's face was pale, and Carla looked visibly shaken. Ashley tried to defend herself. "Those clips are taken out of context," she stammered. "Noah is a difficult child, and I was doing my best. Being a stepmother isn't easy." The judge raised his hand to silence her. "Mrs. Bennett, the footage speaks for itself. Your behavior toward Noah is unacceptable, and it raises serious concerns about your ability to provide a safe and nurturing environment." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of depositions, character witnesses, and legal maneuvers. Ashley's friends, a group of equally superficial women, tried to paint her as a loving mother. One even claimed, "Ashley always spoke fondly of Noah. She treated him like her own." But Megan dismantled their testimonies with ease, presenting more footage and highlighting inconsistencies in their stories. Noah's teachers and our neighbors testified on our behalf. His math teacher, Mrs. Carter, described him as a bright, compassionate boy who always tries his best despite the challenges at home. Our next-door neighbor, Mr. Green, recounted the times he'd heard shouting and seen Noah sitting alone on the porch, looking distraught. Finally, the day of the ruling arrived. I sat in the courtroom, my hands clenched into fists as the judge delivered his verdict. After reviewing the evidence and hearing from both parties, he said, "It is clear that Mr. Bennett has acted in the best interests of his son. The recordings provide irrefutable proof of Mrs. Bennett's neglect and mistreatment of Noah. As such, I am granting Mr. Bennett full custody of his son." Ashley gasped, her face contorted with anger. "What about the house?" she demanded. The judge looked at her sternly. "Given the circumstances, Mr. Bennett will retain ownership of the family home. Mrs. Bennett is entitled to a fair division of savings, but her request for alimony is denied." Ashley's attorney tried to argue, but the judge wasn't swayed. "This court prioritizes the well-being of the child," he said firmly. "Mrs. Bennett's actions have shown that she does not have the child's best interests at heart." As we left the courtroom, Ashley turned to me, her face a mask of fury. "You'll regret this, John," she hissed. "I'll make sure of it." But her threats didn't faze me. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of relief. Noah and I could finally start fresh, free from the toxicity that had plagued our lives for so long. When we got home that evening, Noah hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Dad," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for fighting for me." I hugged him back, my heart swelling with pride. "Always, buddy, always." After the court ruling, life changed drastically for everyone involved. For Noah and me, the changes were a relief, a chance to breathe without walking on eggshells. For Ashley and Sophia, it seemed the reality of their actions finally began to sink in, though not in the way I'd hoped. Instead of reflecting on the damage they'd done, they shifted their anger toward me, painting me as the villain who had taken everything from them. Ashley and Sophia moved in with Ashley's sister, Jessica, in a modest two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. Jessica was a nurse with a demanding schedule, and I'd always thought of her as the more grounded sibling. She and Ashley didn't get along particularly well, though Jessica had a soft spot for Sophia. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, their new living arrangement was anything but harmonious. A few weeks after the move, Ashley started calling and texting me. At first, the messages were cordial, almost apologetic. "John, I just want to talk." One text read, "I think we can work things out for Sophia's sake." I ignored it. The next message was more direct. "This isn't how things were supposed to end. Don't you think we owe it to the kids to try again?" I ignored that one too. The calls started next. At first, they were infrequent, one or two every couple of days. Then they became relentless. I'd wake up to missed calls and voicemails at odd hours. I refused to answer, letting her words pile up unheard in my inbox. But one night, curiosity got the better of me, and I listened to a few. "John," her voice was shaky, bordering on desperate. "I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Please just call me back." Another voicemail, angrier this time. "You're being immature, ignoring me like this. Do you think you're better than me now? Is that it?" Her tone made it clear that this wasn't about regret or reconciliation. It was about control. She wasn't sorry for how she treated Noah. She was sorry for the consequences she now faced. Jessica called me about a month after Ashley moved in. Her voice was tired, exasperated. "John, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Ashley isn't exactly the easiest person to live with." "I'm not surprised," I said. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she's not taking any responsibility for what happened. She's blaming you for everything. And Sophia," Jessica trailed off, sighing, "she's worse. The way she talks about Noah, it's disgusting." I felt a flash of anger but kept my voice steady. "Why are you telling me this, Jessica?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe because I think you deserve to know. Or maybe because I want you to realize you're better off without her. She's not going to change, John. She never will." Jessica's words stayed with me, though they didn't surprise me. Ashley wasn't used to struggling, and she certainly wasn't used to being held accountable. Moving into her sister's cramped apartment was probably the first real consequence she'd faced in years. Meanwhile, life for Noah and me was steadily improving. Our new home wasn't extravagant, a 3-bedroom townhouse in a quiet neighborhood, but it was ours. Noah had his own room, decorated with posters of his favorite superheroes and shelves lined with his carefully rebuilt Lego sets. The living room was cozy, with mismatched furniture we'd picked out together at a thrift store. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like home. Noah thrived in our new environment. He joined the school's art club and started making friends who appreciated his kind heart and creative mind. I encouraged him to pursue his interests, whether it was sketching in his journal or building intricate models. For the first time in years, I saw him smile without hesitation. One evening, while we were having dinner, Noah looked up from his plate and said, "Thanks for everything, Dad. I feel safe here." His words hit me harder than I expected. "You don't have to thank me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "This is your home. Noah, you deserve to feel safe." Ashley's attempts to contact me didn't stop. If anything, they escalated. She started showing up unannounced, pounding on the door until I threatened to call the police. Her behavior wasn't surprising, but it was exhausting. I could see the toll it was taking on Noah, who would retreat to his room whenever he heard her voice outside. One day, I found a note slipped under the door. It was hastily written, the letters uneven and slanted. "John, I know I messed up, but I need you to understand that I never meant to hurt anyone. Please, just give me a chance to make things right." I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. Jessica called again a few weeks later. This time, her frustration was palpable. "John, I'm at my wit's end. Ashley's burned through what little savings she had, and she's not even trying to find a job. She keeps saying you're going to take her back, that it's just a matter of time." "She's delusional," I said flatly. Jessica sighed. "I know, but I don't think she's going to stop. She's obsessed with getting back what she lost." "What she lost was her own fault," I said, "and I'm not responsible for fixing her mess." As time went on, Ashley's financial situation grew worse. Jessica eventually kicked her and Sophia out, unable to handle the constant drama and financial burden. They moved into a rundown rental apartment on the other side of town, a far cry from the comfortable life they'd once had. Mutual friends told me that Ashley had started working part-time at a retail store, though she complained constantly about the hours and the pay. Sophia, stripped of the privileges she'd taken for granted, struggled to adjust. Despite their struggles, Ashley's messages kept coming. "I can't believe you're letting us live like this." One text read, "Sophia deserves better. You owe us that much." But I didn't owe them anything. My focus was on Noah, on building a life where he felt valued and loved. I refused to let Ashley's manipulations pull us back into the toxicity we'd worked so hard to escape. One evening, as Noah and I were watching a movie, my phone buzzed with another text from Ashley. I ignored it, as I always did, but Noah noticed. "Was that Mom?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I admitted. "She's just trying to talk." He nodded, staring at the screen for a moment before turning back to me. "I don't want to go back, Dad. Ever." "You won't," I said firmly. "I promise." For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace with my decision. Noah and I had a long road ahead, but we were walking it together, free from the shadows of the past. No matter what Ashley said or did, I knew one thing for certain. We were better off without her. When the dust finally settled after the divorce, it felt like I was stepping into an entirely new world. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I no longer had to deal with Ashley's manipulative games or Sophia's constant hostility. More importantly, Noah finally had a home where he was loved and respected. It wasn't an easy transition, though. Moving forward meant dealing with the emotional scars left by the years of neglect and toxicity. For weeks after Ashley and Sophia were officially out of our lives, Noah would tiptoe around the house, as if he were still afraid of doing something wrong. Every time he misstepped, dropping a plate, forgetting to clean up his room, I could see the panic in his eyes, expecting a lecture or worse. One day, after he accidentally knocked over a glass of water at dinner, he froze, his shoulders hunched like he was bracing for impact. I reached over and placed my hand on his. "It's just water," I said gently. "Let's clean it up together." His eyes filled with tears, and he nodded. That small moment encapsulated everything we'd been through. The damage Ashley and Sophia had inflicted wasn't going to disappear overnight, but I was determined to show Noah what it meant to live in a loving, supportive environment. To help Noah heal, I encouraged him to channel his feelings into his art. He'd always loved sketching, but under Ashley's roof, his passion had been belittled and dismissed. Now, I made it my mission to nurture his talent. I bought him a proper sketchbook and a set of high-quality pencils, something he'd never had before. His face lit up when I handed them to him. "Really? For me?" he asked, holding the supplies like they were made of gold. "Of course," I said. "You're an artist, Noah. You deserve the right tools." He threw himself into his art with a new sense of purpose. Every day after school, he'd sit at the kitchen table, sketching superheroes, landscapes, and sometimes just abstract patterns that reflected his emotions. Over time, his confidence grew, and he even started sharing his drawings with me without hesitation. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, Noah slid a piece of paper across the counter. It was a sketch of the two of us sitting on the couch, laughing together. "This is my favorite drawing," he said softly. I looked at the picture, my throat tightening. "It's perfect," I told him. "Just like you." In our quest to build a new life, I made a point to expand our world beyond just the two of us. I wanted Noah to have a community, a support system that would remind him he wasn't alone. We started attending events at the local community center, art workshops, movie nights, and even a father-son cooking class. It was at one of these events that we met Ellen and her daughter, Ava. Ellen was a single mom who'd recently moved to the area after leaving an abusive marriage. Ava was Noah's age, and the two of them hit it off immediately. Ellen and I bonded over our shared experiences, exchanging stories about the challenges of starting over and raising kids in the aftermath of toxic relationships. Ellen quickly became a close friend, someone I could confide in without fear of judgment. She had a calm, steady presence that balanced out the chaos of our lives. Ava, meanwhile, became Noah's first real friend. The two of them spent hours drawing together, trading sketches and collaborating on comic book ideas. Seeing Noah smile and laugh with someone his age was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Despite our progress, Ashley wasn't completely out of the picture. Every few weeks, she'd send a message or leave a voicemail, her tone swinging between contrition and accusation. "I've changed, John." One message read, "Sophia and I deserve another chance. You're being selfish, keeping Noah away from us." Another voicemail was harsher. "You think you're so perfect? You're not. One day, Noah will see the truth." I deleted every message without responding. Ashley wasn't reaching out because she cared about Noah or me. She wanted the life she'd lost. I wasn't going to let her drag us back into that cycle of toxicity. The turning point came about 6 months after the divorce, when Noah's school hosted an art exhibition. Each student was invited to showcase their work, and Noah, with some encouragement, decided to participate. He chose a series of drawings that represented his journey over the past year, starting with dark, chaotic sketches and gradually moving toward brighter, more hopeful images. The night of the exhibition, I watched as Noah stood by his display, explaining his work to curious parents and classmates. His voice was steady, his eyes bright. For the first time, I saw him truly owning his talent, proud of what he'd created. As I stood there, Ellen walked up beside me. "He's incredible," she said, nodding toward Noah. "You've done an amazing job with him." "I just gave him the space to be himself," I said. "The rest was all him." Ellen smiled. "Still, it takes a strong parent to do that. You should be proud." In the months that followed, our lives began to stabilize. I got a promotion at work, which allowed me to take Noah on small weekend trips, hiking in the mountains, visiting art museums, and even spending a day at an amusement park. These moments became the foundation of our new life, a life built on trust, love, and mutual respect. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Noah turned to me and said, "Do you think we'll ever see Mom and Sophia again?" I thought about his question carefully before answering. "Maybe," I said, "but if we do, it'll be on our terms. No one gets to hurt you anymore, Noah. Not them, not anyone." He nodded, seeming satisfied with my answer. "I like our life now," he said. "It feels happy." "So do I said. "And it's only going to get better." Looking back, I've realized that leaving Ashley wasn't just about protecting Noah. It was about teaching him an important lesson. Toxic people don't change unless they want to, and waiting for them to take responsibility for their actions is a losing battle. By walking away, I showed Noah that it's okay to put your own well-being first, even if it's difficult. If there's one piece of advice I'd give to anyone in a similar situation, it's this. Don't wait for someone to become the person you wish they were. Life is too short to be spent hoping for change that will never come. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who value you for who you are. That's what Noah and I have done, and it's made all the difference. Our family may be smaller now, but it's stronger. And for the first time in years, I feel like we're truly home.